Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
My good friends introducing me. How about that? Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
And there's Mr. Weissoon in the background right there. Larry, I know for sure that you're ready to spend some time, and we're going to talk some fun stuff here on Campfire Talk that you and I have been doing for 16.75 years now.
Ooh, Lordy.
It does seem like
yesterday, Luke.
See, we've been doing it so long that I answer before you just started, and I'll finish the sentence and vice versa.
We kind of know what's going to happen before it happens, but you're right. We've been together on this for a long time, and every week, and it's been one of the most fantastic, fun things that I've gotten to do in this entire lifetime so far. And we're so very fortunate. We've got some great sponsors like DSC, Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy, Hornady, Accurate, Diddley, Dependable, Mossberg, Taurus, Stealth Vision, and I'll come back to that a little bit. VINEYARDMAX, that produces some of the finest game feeders, Attractant, and also now sells my signature knives, and then several other really great people like the Choctaw Nation, and when you get right down to the Choctaw hunting lodge. But I want to come back to the Stealth Vision thing. They're based out of Crockett, Texas, not very far, kind of halfway between you and me where we actually live.
Mm-hmm, right.
And I had just gotten back from an unbelievably great week with those guys. We put together a writer event, if you will, and I had Ron Spomer, who a lot of people have been watching, reading, and seeing photos that he's done for many years, and Dr. Mike Arnold, who's originally from Texas, is now the head of the genetics department over in the University of Georgia, and then Jeff Johnson, who lives not very far from the Choctaw up there, and had them come down to learn about the Stealth Vision optics, those scopes that have been produced by Dr. John McCall, who is one of the world's preeminent eye surgeons. One of the things that these guys learned is that, most scopes that are out there, the scopes are built, and then they say, well, we'll try to do this so the eye can see, Well, with Dr. McCall, he took the reverse of it, being an eye surgeon and knowing about the human eye and what the eye can see and how it sees things, all those kind of great things, and then work forward to create these scopes that are just unbelievably, tremendously accurate, among other things. But then, too, he has done a lot of long-range shooting as well, too. Of course, he loves to hunt. If you visit his house, and you'll see that he's hunted all over the world kind of thing. But he's very passionate about hunting, but also about shooting. And something that he learned a long time ago was about canting. If you're shooting at 100 yards, if you cant your rifle a little bit, it's not going to make any difference. But once you get past that 200 yards, oh my gosh, the canting, and I'm talking about the having that scope totally level, mounted totally level, and then to the rifle, but then also holding it totally level to the earth whenever you pull the trigger. If you don't have that thing totally level at, say, 600 yards and 800 yards, if you're shooting at 1,000 yards, which a lot of people are doing, not killing animals that far, but shooting it still, man, you can miss that target or the center of the target of where you're holding by as many as 50, 60 inches or even more on some guns. So he developed this little bubble at the base of the scope so that this little green light comes on when you've got that that crosshair within about 1 or 2 degrees of being perfectly level. That's when you pull the trigger on those long range shots. And it has made a huge amount of difference. but there's so many other things that he's been involved in there with that, and being able to see Ron Spomer, who's been a dear friend for 40 years. He said, he said, really? He told Doc, he said, before I got here, he said, before I learned about, what we're doing and what you're doing, he said, I thought, man, he said, Larry, the only reason I'm coming is because Larry invited me, because there's another scope that's based out of the same building, because most of the scopes are all built in the same building in the Orient somewhere. And he said, I just thought, oh my God, I'll just come down to visit with Larry. He said, I came down here and I had not told him anything about the scopes. And he goes, oh my gracious, this is a totally revolutionary thing. Never seen anything like it, obviously. And so same thing with Mike Arnold and Jeff and those guys. We were shooting targets out to 1,200 yards and shooting groups that were, oh my gosh, within, maybe a 5-inch group at 1,000 yards at the very most, and some of them were even tighter.
That's amazing. I was there, with you and the group
Right.
of guys down there, 6 weeks ago or so, and that was the first time I had ever shot at 1,200 yards. And
Right.
I was absolutely amazed. We were using one of their custom rifles. They sell a rifle scope combo that's,
Yes.
if you're talking about accurate, my gosh. I mean, I was really hesitant. I thought, 1,200 yards, but they had that thing, Joe Cunningham, he had that thing set in there, sighted in, and it was on. And I went into it. I thought, let's try it at 1,200. And and of course, anyone that knows how to squeeze and breathe and all that and shoot, put it that way, can do that. To me, it's not that. It's the big deal. It's the equipment that does it. So, just a stock rifle. We were shooting stock rifles, you and I both, out of the box and out to 600-800 yards. I mean, I had, there's no problem getting accuracy from those rifles even, but to get way out there, you've got to have a good barrel, a special barrel, and they had them too. I was totally amazed, and I learned something too. I went into that thing with the mindset, just made me thinking, I don't know, I'm never going to shoot. The farthest I've ever killed a deer was 429 yards. That was one, and then the next one was a little over 300. I just don't shoot at deer that far. But I was thinking strictly hunting. I wasn't thinking about how much fun it is to shoot that steel way out there. I could get hooked on that. I mean, that was just a lot of fun. But you don't just pick a scope up at Walmart and put it on a rifle and do that. It takes the kind of stuff, the scopes like that the optics in that thing was just absolutely amazing. So I can see how, I bet old Ron Spomer, to me, I watch a lot of his YouTube videos, and
Right.
I enjoy, he'll take an old caliber, a 257 Roberts compared to a 243 and spend 15 minutes on filming the difference and stuff. That guy knows his ballistics, his rifles, and plus he's just entertaining,
He is, and anybody can go see RonSpomerOutdoors.com. I mean,
Yep.
Ron's been a friend for many, many years, and we probably filmed about 20 or so of the little short videos.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, while we were together. And so, again, RonSpomerOutdoors.com is a place to do that if somebody wants to see, and they can see what all happened at at what we were doing there shooting. To me, I love the shooting at those long ranges at steel, to where we're shooting at a special type of steel that you don't shoot through, of course, and
Yeah.
and you could see the spot as soon as you hit it, and then we were comparing group sizes and all those kind of things. And to me, a lot of folks, unfortunately, will buy a very expensive rifle, a very expensive scope with turrets and adjustable, all that kind of thing, and then think immediately they should be able to shoot at those distances. And there's much to be learned about wind and wind drift and the different loads. And of course, when it comes down to hunting, most of the bullets are not really designed to kill animals out at those great distances. There's just a very few of those kind of bullets out there that will continue to expand properly as they should. And at great distances, some of those don't, if you use them for great distances at 100 yards, you may just poke a hole through them. So there's a lot to be learned before somebody thinks that they can take one of those rifles, even one of their custom rifles, and go out and shoot at those great distances without a little bit of training and learning about what they're doing. And particularly when it comes to hunting, the one thing I like about these guys, like we did for years with the FTW when I was helping with them, we taught people how to shoot long range, but we also pretty much discouraged somebody trying to shoot an animal, particularly a deer or an elk or something like that, at those extreme distances, unless you really know what you're doing and you really are using the right bullet, and particularly at when it comes to shooting well beyond 600 yards.
That's true, Larry. For several years, a friend and I, outfitted and guided elk and bear hunts up north of Steamboat Springs.
Yes, right.
Strictly archery. And these guys would, so much is written on archery about shooting 40, 50, 60 yards. Well, with today's bows, it's not difficult to shoot a group at 50 yards with calm winds that would kill an elk. It's not hard to do. But those guys, when I would take them out, you'd see we had a little target range set up there at camp. Well, they'd be shooting at 40, 50 and shooting well. But when I'd get them off to myself, I would say, here's the deal. I want you to wait till that animal is in there at least no more than 35 yards, if you can. I wouldn't tell them to do that, but I just admonish them to do that.
Yes, exactly.
Wait till that cow elk or bull elk or whatever, or bear, whatever you're going to shoot. Let's try to get him in close. Be patient, and then you're going to get him. I've seen you shoot, but out there, and I tell these guys, I don't doubt you hitting where you're shooting at 40 or 50 yards, but a lot can happen, especially with an arrow going 300 feet per second when it leaves that arrow rest till it gets there. So you're right, Larry. Closer the better, regardless of whatever you're shooting. But dinging that steel out there at long distances is a whole bunch of fun, man.
It really is. We also had Dusty Vickery in, and Dusty had never really shot that far. He'd been much of a bow hunter for many years, and he and his son and his fiance were there, and we had them shoot at long distances. And now I think Dusty's going to be a dealer for Stealth Vision there on the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, and we're setting up a long range a long distance range kind of thing. And then in last week of March, we're going to do some shooting and hunting schools there as well, too, that we'll talk more about going into the future. But, if people want to learn more about what we're talking about, and particularly with Stealth Vision, if you were to get one of those scopes or rifles, they probably want you to come to the range so they could tell you how some of these things we were talking about. And they can learn more about that by just going to stealthvision.com as well, too. And there'll be a phone number, and those guys are always willing to talk.
And it's a great place and great people to get started in the long-range shooting. Larry, thank you, buddy, for being with us, as always, this week. And, you and I are going to do a little catfishing down at Lake Tawakoni with our buddy Jeff Rice here in a matter of 2 days. I look forward to seeing you down there.
We'll see you there, and we'll see everybody else here next week.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination down at Lake Tawakoni. It's Wind Point Park. If you love the outdoors, if you like camping in an area, I bet I saw 60 deer. I was in there recently touring the place, went fishing down there. It's some awesome fishing, camping, long-term RV rentals overnight. There's some beautiful cabins, some bigger cabins and littler ones right there by fishing. You can walk out the door and fish at some of those places. But the place is neat as a pin. It's been around for 10 years. Wind Point Park, if you haven't been down there in the last 10 years, it's all remodeled and just beautiful. So check it out online. I think the website is windpointparktx.com. Of course, you can just Google Wind Point Park, Tawakoni, and pull it up. But I want you to know about it. You're going to be hearing old Luke talk about the fishing down there a lot. I've already done some bank fishing there, so you can catch a lot of blues, and you can also catch a ton of channel catfish along those rocks. Another thing I want to tell you about, VINEYARDMAX. The website is vineyardmax.net. They make an awesome line of game feeders, fish feeders. They're just an awesome product, but they also have a deer attractant. That's what I really want to tell you about. It's called VINEYARDMAX. It's made from dried, hammer-milled grape hulls and wheat bran, I think it is, or, ground-up wheat, and also some corn chops. So it's got stuff in it deer-like, plus it's got that scent of grapes that we've used it. Larry and I have used it out in West Texas where a deer have never seen a grape and had them come in on it. So check that out, and the website again is vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, folks, the past several months, really, I've had Mr. Jason Robertson on with us. Now, Jason is a thermal scope expert. Outdoor Legacy is his company. And he and Mr. Hans, they are co-hosts on the Late Night Vision show. It's all about hunting with thermal, or using thermal, I should say. Well, guess what? In the theme of this week's show, Michelle Wohlberg is going to be on with us. She's a friend of mine up in Saskatchewan, an expert guide and for fishing and hunting up there. She's going to be talking some outdoor stuff with us. Miss Michaela Hill here. Michaela is the person, when you call Outdoor Legacy, she's in the office. She's the office manager, but she's also extremely knowledgeable about thermal. She's been on the phone for years answering questions about thermal. So let's talk some thermal today with Michaela. Michaela, thank you, ma'am, for this lengthy intro, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I tell you, let's talk some thermal. What do you say? Thermal, the price. I say it's good. Yeah, the price of thermal scopes. We'll concentrate on scopes. Has really went down the last 2 or 3 years. It's dropped a lot. The prices, haven't they?
It has, yes, sir. Yeah, especially kind of like 2022, we started to see that, and there right now, you can get lots of really good quality scopes for very affordable prices. And that, you're right, that wasn't the case 3-4 years ago. Even just for a moderate scope, you were going to be dropping probably $3,000-$4,000. So yes, now the market has a lot of good quality scopes for very reasonable prices.
Michaela, probably, 6-7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, I first got introduced into thermal. I had a friend that was pretty well off financially, and he had I'd go out with him and we'd hunt with his scopes. And I'd ask him, what, just out of curiosity, what does that cost? And he was, $5,000-$6,000, which was a lot of money to me to be spending on something like that. But nowadays, for instance, AGM Global Vision is a maker of quality thermal gear. You know that.
Yeah, yes,
and
they are.
y'all sell a lot of AGM products. But they make a scope. It's called the TS19, I think, the Rattler, the basic one, with a 256 processor. Is that right?
They do make one, yes, sir, with the 256.
And that thing sells for, I think, around $800 or maybe a tad less than $800. So that thing, now, is it one that you would be out shooting coyotes at 200 yards with? Definitely not. But you know what? I've got the high-end Rattler, and, I've got some stuff that you can hunt way out with at night. But honestly, for probably 80% of what I do, and that's shoot either stalk hogs at night on, walk up, get downwind and get in close, or shoot them over a corn feeder. This TS-19 with the 256 processor will do it. I mean,
it will.
It will. But
it's get the job done.
I bet y'all are right now. I bet there's probably a lot of interest in those.
There are. That has been one of the most popular scopes this summer. AGM is a great company. Our guys Trent and Scott over there are phenomenal. But yeah, this summer. It feels like, I'm always checking the inventory, checking our numbers, putting in orders with the manufacturer. And that one I just can't keep on the shelf this summer. I mean, I put in an order, and by the time we have those delivered, it's time to do another one. So then I started up in my quantities. But the more I put on the shelf, the more we sell. But that just speaks to the product. And you're right, yes, sir. It is you can get that for under $1,000, and it is perfectly satisfactory for a lot of situations, like you said yourself. Hogs around a feeder under 60 yards. I mean, that's ideal. So
perfect. Yeah.
It's been very popular this summer, and it's having its heyday right now.
It is. And I feel like, really, honestly, on a hog size animal or a grown hog out to 100 yards or less, the ones I've used, no problem. But there again, it's not made for long range identification of critters way out there, but up close. Right. Around and a lot of people do hunt hogs at night over feeders. It's just it's light years ahead of digital. Now, digital was the first night vision type scopes that I used. I used those for years back. For I don't know, 2 or 3 years I hunted with them extensively. They had some advantages, and they still have some advantages. Color during the daytime, really clear pictures. But they have one huge drawback, digital night vision, and that is refraction at night. If you're in the woods, you can pretty much forget it. If there's trees or limbs or stuff up close, that infrared bounces off and distorts the picture. But for some situations, such as hunting over a corn feeder, using a digital scope, if in a clear, open edge of a field or something, it works good. So the advantage of having folks like y'all there at Outdoor Legacy is to pick up a phone and call and talk to people that know you folks. Talk to y'all about, do I need, they obviously, if that's all you're going to do, or maybe you're going to shoot coons over, you've got a problem with raccoons on your corn feeders. That's all you need if that's all you're going to do, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's, it's really helpful when you're going to be making a purchase like that. Certainly one that could be, even though the prices are more affordable now, that's still a large purchase in today's economy. So calling somebody who has had extensive use of these, of a variety of all these different scopes out in the field, not just in a booth or behind a counter, but actually using it out in the field. It's really helpful. We can really answer a lot of questions, a lot of pros and cons, and really help you nail down the exact scope that fits your hunting situation and your budget. Yes. So it's nice to be able to call in and get that very detailed help.
It's helped me tremendously having you folks for a go-to. A lot of people get the misconception that I'm an expert in thermal, and I'll be the first to wave the flag and tell you, and I won't answer, I always send people to the 800 number at Outdoor Legacy, because now I've killed a lot of hogs, but I hunt a little differently. I don't want to make this all about me, but it's just a way that I use this scopes. I shoot, if there's 15 hogs in a sounder that comes out, well, I'll pick out one. I like to cook the wild pork. I'll pick out a fat, younger one, and shoot it. So as a rule, I'm shooting up close, but I know there's a lot of people that will come up on a wheat field that they may be shooting hogs 150, 200 yards away. So, they obviously need a higher processor than the 256, but having y'all to talk to, that's where they can learn what scope.
Yeah. And even though thermal is becoming more popular than it was, 6-7 years ago, it's still, we still get calls in every day with guys saying, like, I don't know what 256 means. I don't know what 384, 640. I don't know exactly like what kind of magnification I need for my situation. So even though there is, thermal is becoming more widespread, there's still a lot of things people don't know. And again, when you're going to drop several $1,000s on something, you want to know all the details and know, exactly what would be the best thing for you. So
exactly, Michaela. It's one thing to buy thermal, but it's also can be very confusing if you just buy it from a box store or something and you don't have somebody a go-to person to call, because questions are going to come up, and reading the manual will get you there, but it's so much easier and nicer to have somebody to talk to. We're about out of time, I'm told. I want to make sure and connect everybody with the website, OutdoorLegacyGear.com. OutdoorLegacyGear.com, and the number to call is 877-350-1818. You might be on the border thinking about, do you want to get a thermal or not? What type do you need? Give them a call or check the website. Their number's there, OutdoorLegacyGear.com. And also, Jason Robertson and his buddy Hans, his co-host Hans, they do an absolutely awesome job with the YouTube show that's called The Late Night Vision Show. You can just search it out if you don't have it handy, The Late Night Vision Show. It's also a podcast, I think, just about anywhere you can find podcasts. We are out of time. We're going to get Michaela back with us soon. We're going to get Jason back. Thermal is an interesting thing for me, hunting with it. There's all kind of different ways that we hunt with thermal, but some people like me, old school, that just like to set over a feeder and pick out some good pork and put it on the meat pole. Then there's others that want to get out on a big open wheat field and do some extermination of hogs. So there's a lot to learn. We've got a lot more coming up in our show. Let's have these few words, and then we will be right back with you with some more outdoor talk. How about that? Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Luke, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on when that scope is leveled, because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Folks, how about that little intro from Ernest Tubb there? This segment here is brought to us by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, if you listen to our show very often, you know that occasionally a lady named Michelle Wohlberg, who is an experienced backwoods hunting guide, fishing lady. I'll often say that I think I would vote for Michelle to be the Outdoor Woman of the Year if there was such a thing. She's the real deal. Guess who's on the line? Michelle? Thanks for being with us.
I'm happy to be here once again, Luke.
Yeah, I always enjoy getting you on and visiting with you and letting you keep me and all of us folks down here. I say down here in Texas. People are listening everywhere now. A radio show becomes a podcast after all of our great radio stations run it. But Michelle, you're up in, I guess, northern Saskatchewan right now, right?
That's right. I'm way up here. I'm actually on the border of the Northwest Territories and Saskatchewan. It's a big lake called Selwyn Lake, and there's a lodge up here that I took over management. It hasn't been operational in 8 years. So it was a lot of work to get it up and running. Everything had to be started up and fixed up, and here we are, a month in.
Yeah, I think we talked when you just were getting there, back in the early summer, I guess it was, when you arrived there. Just to make all of us, now, folks, we're coming from Texas here. Catfish Radio originates in Texas, where it's about 103 degrees. Right now, Michelle, you've got a sweater on, you say. It's probably in the 50s up there. Nice and cool, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let me just do a quick conversion here. 54 Fahrenheit.
Oh, boy. Well, we won't see 54 until, honestly, I hate to say this, maybe late October or something like that. But we'll endure the heat. So setting up that camp, that's got to be a fun thing. It's a camp that is probably nobody been around it a whole lot for, 8 years maybe?
That's right.
Yeah.
So that lake is... it's 228.96 miles square. I just looked it up online, the conversion. So 593 kilometers square. That's a big body of water to learn.
Is.
Every one of those bays, islands, rocky shorelines, and I'm looking for a bear, I'm looking for moose, I'm developing baits. And as you say, that lake has been almost entirely untouched. For 8 years, the odd fisherman maybe will get flown in and stay somewhere on the lake on a on a camping trip, but for commercial use, it hasn't been used. So I went out with a guy that had guided here years and years ago. We brought him in to kind of give me a hand getting everything going. Yeah. And the second fish I caught, it was 42 inches.
A pike.
A big pike.
A pike. Oh,
yeah, a northern pike. Yeah, 42 inches. Just a big, when it's that easy to catch big fish, you just have a ball after that, right?
I'm beginning to have nervous tremors just thinking about the pike. I go up, folks, the Department of Saskatchewan Department of Tourism, I work with them closely, and for the past, decade, I've had a chance to go up there. I didn't make it up this summer, but I'm sure planning on next summer. And I've had a chance, Michelle, to meet you, and through Bryce Liddell, my buddy up there that runs a Squatican Lake Lodge, your great friend, Bryce.
Yep.
I've had a chance to fish several camps up there. And there's so many, when people ask me, mostly here in Texas, what's it like up there? How hard is it to get there? It's not hard. It does take some logistics and a little bit of planning, but getting up there now is kind of old hat to me. I'd say, you're going to have to ride an airliner for a while, and you're either going to take a float plane or you're going to have a little drive to get to where you're going. But it's not that big. And Michelle, Tourism Saskatchewan Tourism Department, they are a great help on helping people plan things, aren't they? They've got all kind of information.
They do. They actually have information available. They have a website and everything, just kind of dedicated to the hunting and fishing portion of Saskatchewan. We're really encouraging tourism in this province and to bring in folks to really see what Saskatchewan has to offer. So as a result, they're putting a lot of effort into marketing and getting people here. As you say, any good outfitter that you're going to book with, whether it's a fishing trip or a hunting trip, any good outfitter should have a really clear, concise method of getting to their outfitting camp. If you're left to going like, I don't know what's going to happen after that, maybe you need to look at other outfitters, or you need to ask a few more questions, because as you say, you land mostly into Saskatoon. That's where the international airport is. Mm-hmm. And from there, they either have another charter flight for you, there's car rental services, and it's very clear, where your next step is going to go. And then from there, as you say, to get up into the northern parts of fly and fishing in Saskatchewan, there's no roads. There's no roads up here. None. I'm hundreds of kilometers from the nearest road. It's by plane or helicopter. You know, I got a couple of helicopters in camp right now. I've got people looking for minerals, you know, nickel and metals and stuff like that. So that's who I have in camp right now. So, you know, I've been heading up in that helicopter, and you get a different bird's eye view when you're up in a helicopter scoping out an area. You do. It's been years since I was in a helicopter, but I have spent some time in one. Yeah, you're right. And the thing about when you leave, say Saskatoon, and Saskatoon, folks, is more or less on a prairie. It's pretty flat, you know. But when you leave there and you're flying up to La Ronge or Stony Point, I think Stony Rapids. That's right. Been there one time, Stony Rapids. When you're flying up there, you know, I look down and I'm in a float plane usually, and I look down and see those potholes, the little lakes, and timber on every one of them. And you won't see a human when you get on up into Saskatchewan. You won't see anybody. Occasionally, you'll see a camper in a boat, the wake of a boat out on those little lakes, but that's wilderness. And where you are up there, right on the edge of the Northwest Territories, I mean, I call that wilderness because it is. I guess that's owned. A lot of that land is Crown land, right? It's owned by the British English government, right? Yeah. So, well, your camp there, the one that you're bringing back and getting ready, will it be used maybe like not this fall but next fall for bear hunters, or when will it go into operation? Bear and moose hunters. Yeah, exactly. I'll be able to take whether it's me here personally or the business. When I say we'll be taking moose and bear hunters likely in 2025, and then probably looking to really start maybe a small operation 2026. It just depends. Market is a factor, but also you know, this is an exclusive lodge up here. It's a little bit to get to, and you don't sleep 100 people at this camp. I've got 10 rooms. You know, so the most amount of people in camp that you're going to see is going to be what's in those rooms. So it's kind of, you know, bring in 2 or 3 hunters at a time, go for a moose, have a nice hunting rotation. There's other animals up here that we don't hunt, but that we can also go and see: caribou, muskox, you know, those things. That's really fun to go and see on the you know, it's not the tundra where you think that they're found, but here up in the woods to come across a muskox. Oh boy, that's what. Let's talk about that a minute. You know, caribou. I've been up north where there are caribou, up that far north, near the Northwest Territories. All my experience has been fishing trips in the summertime, you know, and I've seen moose, but I've yet to see a caribou. But I've been told by locals that run those camps and all that, there's caribou up here. I guess it's like woodland caribou. It would have to be, right? They're going to be in the woods, aren't they? Well, these would be considered still woodland caribou, but there is migratory caribou, probably more farther to the north, and that's where there's no outfitting for caribou in the Northwest Territories for most people any longer. They shut that down. You know, they saw a herd decline, and so they shut down hunting quite a few years ago for that. But woodland caribou in a lot of places is still huntable. Whether or not you can outfit for them is a little bit of a different story. And then, muskox as well. And have you? I'm quite sure you've run into a lot of muskox through the years. That would be. I've seen them on TV and on pictures, but they're there in that area, not too far away, right? Muskox. That's right. Yeah, we saw some from the helicopter. Is that right? You know, and they're just an amazing animal. I mean, everything is to me, but you know, you see the muskox out there, and you think, my gosh, that's a big animal, and you know, they can live up to 20 years in the wild. That to me is just, you know, it's beautiful. It's like watching the bison go across the plain somewhere. You know, the muskox shouldn't be here. They're migrating farther to the south as climate changes and ice flow and winter and all of that. So I'm not a biology expert on anything, but you know, you start seeing them in those areas, and you just kind of, it's just a beautiful thing to see. You know, you don't go just into anybody's backyard and go see a herd of muskox.
Michelle, I apologize for that. Got our next call coming in. That's what that beep was,
yes.
But that's the price to pay to get to visit with Michelle Wohlberg way up there in northern Saskatchewan. So a muskox, the size of him compared to, say, an elk, are they weight-wise? They look to be pretty heavy critters, you know.
Yeah, a lot of that is a hair weight.
Yeah.
But a male muskox, you're probably looking at, I don't know, probably 300, maybe give or take, you know, kg on each side of that.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
And then a female is going to be smaller.
Smaller
So
ones. Mm-hmm.
they're kind of stocky, compact.
They are.
You know, they're like a bison. You know, and they got a lot of hair. It kind of drags them on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and their heads are massive. I think somewhere on my social media platform, I think I've got an old muskox skull, and I'm holding. I would have to go back to find that photo or see if I could find one.
Yeah.
And I was surprised the first time I held a muskox skull. It's, you know, they are big animals.
Their heads are big on them too, right? Yep. Well,
Yep.
I wish we had about 5 hours because I think I could come up with enough questions, Michelle, to keep you busy answering questions for that long. I'm a transplant up in the North Country, but I want to tell you, I probably first discovered that a decade ago, Saskatchewan. But I've made it a point to, in my newspaper writings and when I can get an assignment of the magazine to highlight it, to talk about it. It's something that everybody that loves the outdoors needs to experience at some point. So thank you so much for being with us. And I want to, as the weather continues to cool, I want to get you back and let's talk some more outdoors. I would like to give you the opportunity, connections that you would like to give to you, whatever. If you would like to do that, you certainly can.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. You know, right now I'm just getting this lodge up and running, so I don't, you know, if you want to know more about the business that I'm working with right now, it's called Adventure Destinations. And they have lots of fly-in fishing camps and all sorts of, you know, all sorts of places to visit. They've got good websites there.
Yeah.
Again, just Adventure Destinations. Just type it up.
Yep.
You'll find them. And outside of that, I mean, guys, you know, anybody who's listening here, don't stop learning. Don't stop exploring. And you know, there's so much nature out there. There's so much ground to cover. You know, Luke, like you say, you can have me back anytime. I could just keep talking about stuff that I'm seeing up here, and we'll save that for another time. But thanks for having me, Luke.
Thank you very much, Michelle. We will. We'll talk soon. Michelle, muskox, caribou, there is so much to see up in Saskatchewan, all over the Providence, but especially up north there. Muskox, I mean, you know, you think of muskox being up on the Arctic. I honestly didn't know that they trickle down to the southern part of the Northwest Territories in northern Saskatchewan. We're a little short on time. I wish we had more time in the segment to visit with you, talk about all the neat stuff up in Saskatchewan. I'd like to, all of our guests listening, Tourism Saskatchewan, just Google that. That is an awesome website, folks, and those people, they go out of their way to help bring folks up from the States and help you find destinations, places you want to go. Michelle, give us some contact information if you would, please. Folks, this is Luke. For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use. You can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas. And VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, our next guest is my good buddy, Mr. Jeff Rice. Now, Jeff and I have hunted and fished together for a decade at least right now, and we have a lot of fun together. Jeff actually puts our TV show together that's called A Sportsman's Life. He loves videography and does a great job. You can watch that show on Carbon TV each week, a new show, or YouTube. Jeff, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Good morning, and I'm always glad to spend some time with you, Luke.
We always have a wonderful time, and we've had many, many, many wonderful outdoor experiences, and most of them wind up revolving around cooking. Let's talk about cooking wild pork, Jeff. You recently, I'm going to let you tell about this, because you recently shot a wild hog, not a great big one, just what I call a good eater, and you cooked that ham. And I saw the pictures. The only thing I drooled watching the video that's on, and actually it's on A Sportsman's Life a week or so ago. If you go back, Jeff's method of cooking that ham. Tell us how you did it. I know how good it had to be.
Yeah, it really turned out good. I had done this before a few times, and I thought I'm going to go back and try this recipe again because it's really good. And it's funny because a lot of people that I know will make a glaze to put over ham out of Dr. Pepper. Mm-hmm. And my recipe, actually, you take the whole ham, and I was smoking a bone-in ham, so it was the whole ham. I actually put it in a plastic bag, and I put almost an entire liter bottle of Dr. Pepper, just basically marinated the ham in that Dr. Pepper for several days in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And every, twice a day or so, I would go flip the bag so it got evenly soaked, if you will. And then took that ham out after 3 days and dried it all off a little bit, and then rubbed it in mustard, just a little bit of mustard, not a lot, just enough. The mustard will actually hold your spices and stuff on. So I rubbed it all down with mustard, and then I put some garlic and herbs on there, and I put some of my favorite pork rub on there, and then I actually set it on the Smokin Tex electric smoker and put the pan underneath it and let it smoke. It was about 245 degrees. I had it on for 2 hours, and I just let it get heavy, good smoke. Then I pulled it off the smoker, put it in the tin, brought it in the house, injected it with apple cider vinegar, and then I covered the pan, the aluminum pan, with tin foil, wrapped her nice and tight, stuck her back on the Smokin Tex, and about 14 hours later, I pulled it off. I lowered the temperature, by the way. After I stuck it in the second time, I lowered the temperature to about 195, and I left it in there for, like 13 and a half hours. And let me tell you what, that was the hit of the party. We literally, my neighbor had a birthday party. It was gone. They ate every last bit of it. It was so good.
I can understand that fully. Well, so that I will be trying that. I've cooked hams I thought every way possible, but the Dr. Pepper, I want to do that. And then you actually made little sliders, little sandwiches out of it. Became pulled pork at that point, didn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Once I pulled it out of the smoker, then you just tear the meat apart. It's just falling off the bone, and then I put it into a crock pot, and I added my favorite barbecue sauce and just let it on warm. I let it sit on warm for several hours,
right,
and stirred it occasionally before the party started and all that. But that Dr. Pepper just adds a little bit of sweetness to that meat.
Yeah, I get it. I've heard.
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
you know what I'm talking about.
I get it. I'm gonna do it. So wild pork. If you cook it much, you'll learn this. I've prepared some fajitas out of pork backstrap. I shot about 140-pound sow and had some pretty nice backstraps here. About 2 weeks ago maybe is when I shot it, and I just froze the backstraps right away because it was bedtime and I didn't want to stay up. But I cleaned them up, froze them. So I defrosted those things, Jeff, and cleaned them up, cut all the sinew and everything off, which is way different than a domestic pork loin. Way different. Very little fat, a little bit, but not much, even on a good healthy sow like that. So I actually trimmed it up and I cut those, both of those loins, we'll call them. If that's what they would be if you bought them at the store. We call them backstraps. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So I cut those into pieces about fajita length, maybe 4-inch long pieces of meat, and then I seasoned that with the Fiesta fajita seasoning, which is not too salty. It's the only one I ever use, and they're not a sponsor or anything, but I learned that years ago to use that particular brand. So I put it in.
Use what works, right?
It works.
Use what works.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It is. So I put it in put all those pieces. They're about 3.5 inches long, just about like a fajita piece, and that's what they became. So I put them in a Ziploc bag, and then I added a little bit more fajita seasoning. You can't overdo with that because it's not too salty. That's the key, the Fiesta brand. And then I put a bunch of lime juice in there with them, with those pieces, and sealed them up and left them in the refrigerator a couple of days, just marinating. Well, okay, so I got them out, and I like you, and we just like smoked flavored meats. We do. So especially for fajitas. So I put those on my Smokin Tex electric smoker in a little pan so they wouldn't dry out so much, with some of that moisture, that lime juice, to keep them kind of moist. And I smoked them at 225 for about, I think, 3 hours, and actually checked the internal temperature, and it was up to like 175. It was legally safe to eat. But here's the point. When I took them out and let them cool down, they were not tender. And they were one of the most tender parts of that wild hog, but they weren't tender. Now, they would have been tender had I wrapped them in foil and let them go in moisture for another 4 or 5 hours. They would have got real tender. But I didn't want them tender, Jeff. I wanted them to be fajita meats, Yep. So then I just basically cut each of those pieces. They were about, I'm going to guess, 3.5 inches long, and I cut them into fajita slices, little fajita pieces. And then, now this was all in preparation for a outing that we're going to go on with Larry Weiss soon. I was thinking ahead. Cut that up, and then I put some more, put them in a Ziploc bag, and that was a bunch of fajita meat, those two backstraps. They made quite a bit, So, and I sliced up some jalapeno real small, put the jalapeno in there, and then I put some more fajita seasoning. Again, it's hard to, you can use this stuff liberally because you have to remember making fajitas. When you put all those veggies in there, you're going to put as many veggies as you have meat. You want those veggies to be seasoned with that seasoning too. So, put them all in there, and then I let that set for another 24 hours about, and sealed it up, and then put it in the freezer. So the fajitas, they're done. They're not tender. I actually tested some. I hate to tell you, but I ate 2 of them just to make sure with some peppers. So they were good with onion. But all we have to do when we get to camp, the prep is done. How long will it take with those things defrosted? Put them in a big old cast iron skillet or a wok or whatever, and let them cook a little bit in some olive oil, just a little bit, not too much, maybe 10 minutes, and then throw the veggies in. Bingo, we've got our meal. The thing that I like, go right ahead.
I was going to say, you are the king. You're the king of pre-preparation. I mean, that's what you do. You do this all the time, and you're very good at it. Luke is the master, folks, of going to camp and having something pre-prepared. So when we get out of the woods or off the water, man, there's something delicious ready to go, buddy. You are good at that.
Thank you, Jeff. But it's simple, but a little forethought there makes it. If you were to do all that at camp, I mean, when I'm at a camp, we're going to be fishing with David Hansen for blue catfish. And the summer bite is good. I mean, he's teaching people that you can catch those big blues at Lake Tawakoni in the summertime, too. By big, he's catching them, 10, 12, 15 pounds, and occasionally one is a great big one you have to release. But it's been pretty solid. But, yeah, I want to go down there. We'll be spending the night there at Wind Point Park, which is a discovery of mine. It is an awesome park. We can photograph deer. I bet we'll see 50 deer. Get a golf cart, ride around and photograph the deer. They're wild deer, of course, but they're in that park, So that's prepping. You brought a whole different aspect up, but prepping the wild pork before you go somewhere is very good idea, Jeff,
Oh, absolutely. Well, Luke, I just want to throw this one out there real quick because it's, we're talking cooking pork and all that. I made a dish not that long ago, maybe a few weeks back, that I did the same thing. I had the back strap of a wild hog that I had shot a few weeks back, and I cut it into cubes, and I took those cubes and dusted them in flour, and I put them on the skillet, right on the skillet. I added once I got them cooked a little bit, added some vegetables, made a separate bowl of rice, white rice, and then I added sweet and sour to the pork, and just let it simmer. And we had sweet and sour pork, wild pork, that was maybe a week ago or so, but my wife said that was the best pork she has ever eaten. It was just absolutely out of this world delicious. So
I've got to try that.
You got to give that one a try, buddy.
I will, and I want to I love stir fry. Some snow peas and maybe a few small mushrooms, onion, red pepper, yellow pepper. I got it. I'm on it. Jeff, thank you a lot. We are out of time for our segment, but thanks so much for sharing those recipes, and I look forward to getting to see you next week. We're going to go try some of that wild pork fajitas. How about that?
You betcha. We'll have some fun.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time, too. This segment was made possible by AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder, 2 awesome thermal scopes that I use for all my night hunting. Check out AGM, all the products that they have there online, agmglobalvision.com. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.